This is our past, gentlemen. This is where we have been. This is how we got here. This is who we are today.
You find out life's this game of inches. So is football. Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, one half a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us.
It's not about that scoreboard out there. It's not about winning. It's about you and your relationship to yourself and your family and your friends.
They're strong, fast, and undefeated. So far. But I want you to remember where God has brought us. I want you to remember how hard you've worked. We weren't supposed to have a winning season, but we do. We weren't supposed to advance through the playoffs, but we did. We're not supposed to be here, but we are. So if there's anything in you that says this is a losing effort, throw it out. Because as I stand here, I believe that as long as we honor God, nothing is impossible.
Welcome, and thank you for joining me today. This is a special new broadcast from Diggin, Deeper Ministries. While we are a Christian ministry, we are also sports fans who enjoy the competition of many leagues, including the National Football League. We will never forget our roots as a Christian ministry, but that does not mean we cannot explore other interests as well. God never said to avoid other interests. He is clear, however, that these interests must never take priority over Him. With that in mind, I am your host, Brian Parsons, for Diggin, Deeper into the NFL. On today's program, we'll go diggin' deeper into Week 2 of the National Football League schedule, which kicked off Thursday, September 11th, 2025, with the Washington Commanders at Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers outlasted the Washington Commanders 27-18 in a gritty Thursday night matchup at Lambeau Field in Green Bay, Wisconsin. While the Packers held control most of the night, the Commanders fought to the end in what became a test of execution and endurance. Green Bay outgained Washington 404 to 230 in total yards, powered by 269 passing and 135 rushing yards. The Commanders managed just 179 through the air and 51 on the ground. Time of possession favored Green Bay 32-26 to 27-34. Jordan Love's 292 yards and 2 touchdowns proved decisive, while Washington's Jaden Daniels threw for 200 yards and 2 scores in a losing effort. This game featured a matchup between two of the better young quarterbacks in all the NFL, Jordan Love and Jaden Daniels. Daniel won the 2024 Associated Press Offensive Rookie of the Year and the 2024 Pepsi Zero Sugar NFL Rookie of the Year awards, so there is much hype surrounding the young phenom. While it was Daniels who has more awards, it was Jordan Love who would claim the victory on this night, as he completed 19 of 31 passes for 292 yards, throwing 2 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. Daniels completed 24 of 42 passes for 200 yards, also throwing for 2 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. Tight end Tucker Kraft had a career night. 6 catches for 124 yards and 1 TD, including the go-ahead score with 8 minutes and 57 seconds left in the fourth. The Packers built a 14-3 halftime lead via 2 long touchdown drives, both more than 90 yards, one 96 yards, the other 92 yards. The Commanders' offense struggled early. They managed just 11 yards in the first quarter and didn't reach the end zone until the fourth quarter. Unfortunately, in the fourth quarter, Washington's running back, Austin Eckler, suffered what appears to be a right Achilles injury. The win gives the Packers a strong 2-0 start to the season, bolstering momentum. Washington's slow start and offensive stumbles cost them momentum early. They fought back, but couldn't overcome the gap. Injuries could have significant longer-term implications for Washington. On the Packers' side, the big offensive plays and efficient attack showed potential. While it is early in the season, the win confirmed that Jordan Love's command of the offense continues to evolve. His 292 yards and 2 touchdowns reflected poise and confidence, while tight end Tucker Kraft's breakout performance hinted at new dimensions within Matt LaFleur's scheme. The Packers' ability to sustain long scoring drives, 2 spanning more than 90 yards, underscored their offensive balance and efficiency. Yet concern lingers. Despite the yardage advantage and a 32-26 edge in time of possession, Green Bay allowed Washington to hang around late. The defense, which looked dominant early, softened as fatigue set in. Missed tackles and preventable penalties opened the door for a potential comeback. The optimism, however, lies in how complete the team looked for stretches. An offense capable of rhythm, a defense with disruptive flashes, and a coaching staff that has kept the group composed through 2 early season wins. For Washington, the loss was frustrating but not discouraging. Rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels showed toughness and leadership, despite inconsistent protection and an injury-depleted backfield. His 2 fourth-quarter touchdown passes were proof of his resilience and potential to keep his team competitive even when outmatched statistically. Still, the first-half performance, just 11 yards in the opening quarter, revealed glaring offensive inefficiencies. The Achilles injury to Austin Eikler only deepened concerns about depth and adaptability in Eric Bieniemy's playbook. Yet the silver lining is clear. Washington's defense forced Green Bay to earn every yard, and Daniels' late composure offered a glimpse of long-term promise. Green Bay left Lambeau feeling validated, but mindful of lapses that could prove costly against stronger opponents. Washington, meanwhile, departed, disappointed but encouraged, knowing that if Daniels continues his upward trajectory, the pieces of a competitive future may already be in place. Let us take on the Sunday slate of games that took place on September 14th, starting with the Cleveland Browns in Baltimore, to face one of the perceived favorites, Baltimore Ravens. This is a key AFC North showdown at M&T Bank Stadium, and while there was a circus during the offseason with the entire NFL draft process by the Browns, one we do not want to get into here, the circus continued into Week 2 of the regular season as the Baltimore Ravens dominated the Cleveland Browns 41-17, turning a modest first-half lead into a rout thanks to a second-half surge. The game featured a compelling quarterback matchup, clear strengths and concerns for both teams, and statistical markers that underscored the final margin. Heading in, Cleveland believed its strength was a revamped defense that could bottle up opposing rushing attacks and force opponents into uncomfortable passing situations. The Browns had a middle-of-the-pack defense last season, and the offense was not very good, ranking near the bottom. Perhaps their offense made the defense much worse. Indeed, the Browns held Baltimore's ground game in check, limiting Derrick Henry, or King Henry, to just 23 yards on 11 carries, a mere 2.1 yards per attempt. If you did not know how the game ended, going off this one piece of data, you'd probably think the Browns won. But, as already mentioned, it's a circus in Cleveland. Offensively, Cleveland hoped that Flacco's experience, coupled with fresh skill players and a young backfield, could provide stability while building towards something more sustainable. For Baltimore, the strengths were clear. Jackson's versatility, a potent passing attack, and a defense capable of flipping field position and creating turnovers. Let's go digging deeper into the quarterback matchup. For Cleveland, veteran Joe Flacco started under center, with an eye toward managing the game and steadying a franchise in flux. The Browns have been in turmoil, it feels, since they returned to Cleveland. But there have been a few moments of success. For this game, Flacco completed 25 of 45 passes for 199 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception, while taking 2 sacks for an 11-yard loss. He showed some rhythm, particularly in a third-quarter drive that delivered Cleveland's first touchdown. But the interception and inability to sustain drives ultimately limited his impact. On the Baltimore side, Lamar Jackson brought his dual-threat skill set and poise in big moments. He finished 19 of 29 for 225 yards and 4 touchdowns, with no interceptions and 3 sacks for a 28-yard loss. Literally, this game featured 2 quarterbacks at different points in their careers, and with different skill sets. Jackson's ability to swing momentum with big plays in the passing game proved decisive, while the Browns' offense simply could not match his tempo. This contest mattered for both teams in more ways than the standings. For Baltimore, it marked a statement win, putting behind their Week 1 struggles and stamping their intent in the AFC North, with Jackson leading the charge. For Cleveland, it was a reality check. Despite some defensive resistance, especially against Henry, the offense's lack of execution and self-inflicted wounds make the path forward steeper. For the Browns, the optimism lies in flashes. The run defense held up, young skill players gained reps, and the roster still has upside. The concern, however, is that without major offensive improvement and fewer turnovers, they risk falling into deeper trouble. The Browns do have 2 cornerbacks they drafted in this year's draft, Dillon Gabriel out of Oregon and Door Sanders out of Colorado. But it's unlikely they make any real impact this season. For the Ravens, optimism is abundant. The offense is humming, the defense opportunistic, and momentum is building. The concern might be fine-tuning the run game and avoiding complacency against lesser opponents. All in all, the Browns at the Ravens was less a contest and more a vivid illustration of where each team stands. Baltimore ascending with confidence, and Cleveland needing sharper execution, fewer mistakes, and faster growth if they're to mount a meaningful run this season. Let's go to the other team, in Ohio this time, in Cincinnati, with the Cincinnati Bengals and the Jacksonville Jaguars at Paycor Stadium. It was a wild ride, as the score suggests. And this game was completely different than Cleveland and Baltimore. The Bengals edged out the Jaguars 31-27, thanks to a dramatic 15-play, 92-yard drive capped by a quarterback sneak with 18 seconds remaining. The good thing about a Week 2 matchup is, whether the previous season went as planned, or even the previous game, it's early so the concerns can be worked on and fixed. Many, anyway. Jacksonville entered the contest believing it had re-established a balanced offense under head coach Liam Cohen, especially with a strong rushing attack and increased tempo, and this gives Jaguars fans a real cause for optimism as they have Trevor Lawrence, their first overall pick from a few seasons ago, and his college teammate and current running back Travis Etienne Jr. But a concern was, could the defense tighten coverage down the stretch, and could the offense finish drives? As it has been for several seasons, Cincinnati's strength lay in their home crowd and receivers, particularly Jamar Chase, who would haul in 14 catches for 165 yards, and the ability to overcome adversity. Unfortunately, the Bengals would lose star quarterback Joe Burrow, which meant they would rely on backup quarterback Jake Browning and red zone execution. Let's look at the quarterback play for this game. Before his injury, Joe Burrow completed 7 of 13 passes for 76 yards and 1 touchdown. Burrow exited the game with a left toe injury in the second quarter. Jake Browning took over after Burrow's injury and finished 21 of 32 for 241 yards, threw 2 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, and capped the game with a 1-yard quarterback sneak with 18 seconds remaining to give Cincinnati the victory. On the other side, Trevor Lawrence completed 24 of 42 passes for 271 yards with 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. He led Jacksonville to an early lead but could not close it out. In regards to the ground game, the Jaguars dominated the rushing game with 139 yards and showed flashes of offensive rhythm early, while the Bengals leaned more on air attack and clutch execution. Jacksonville led 17-10 at halftime. Then the teams traded big moments in the third quarter before Cincinnati took control late. In other words, Jacksonville held a late lead in a tense contest, but the Jaguars were unable to sustain their advantage as the Bengals mounted a clutch comeback. Without resorting to hyperbole, in the Battle of the Cats, it was Cincinnati's Tiger that ultimately put down the Jaguars. The game showcased both teams, potential Jacksonville's explosive offense and Cincinnati's resilience under pressure, yet highlighted the fine margins between victory and defeat in close NFL matchups. Jacksonville's yardage totaled 400 yards, while Cincinnati's offense mustered 350. Jacksonville 261 through the air and 139 on the ground. 71 yards from Travis Etienne Jr. and Bashal Tutin with 42 yards. Cincinnati had 241 yards from Browning and 76 from Burrow for a total of 317 total yards through the air, sacked 3 times for a total of 302 passing yards, and 47 on the ground by Chase Brown, another yard from Browning for a total of 48 rushing yards. Before moving on, a few key highlights included multiple Bengals interceptions, 3, a massive 42-yard touchdown from Browning to T. Higgins, and a bitter miss by the Jaguars when wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr. dropped a pass on 4th and 5 from the Bengals' 7, with about 4 minutes left. Every game matters, obviously. And this game mattered because it offered an early glimpse into where 2 young franchises are headed. For the Jaguars, a win would have solidified momentum under Cohen and Lawrence. The loss instead raised questions about finishing and execution. For the Bengals, the win reinforced their resilience and depth, crucial for a team with championship ambitions facing injury. Maybe the most exciting game of the weekend came in Dallas at AT&T Stadium, or Jerry's World, between the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants. In a thriller, the Cowboys edged out the Giants 40-37 in overtime. The rivalry between the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants officially began with their first meeting on December 4, 1960, which ended in a 31-31 tie. So maybe it's not a surprise that we saw this type of performance from the two sides. Going into the game, the Giants entered believing their passing game could carry them. with Wilson leading a retooled receiving corps including second-year receiver Malik Neighbors, expecting to unlock big plays. Their concern, however, lay on defense and in the run game. Last year's rushing deficiencies and penalty issues loomed large. The Cowboys, meanwhile, leaned on a historically dominant home record versus New York and a balanced offense built around Prescott and receivers like CeeDee Lamb. Their concern: defensive consistency and avoiding sloppy momentum swings. And with no surprise, both defenses seemed to take the night off as this game swung wildly, featured 7 lead changes, and underscored both teams' potential and flaws. It might be fair to say that this game had no defense whatsoever. Both teams traded big plays at will, with long drives and explosive passing attacks dominating the scoreboard. The Giants racked up 506 total yards while the Cowboys managed 478, yet neither defense could consistently slow down the opposing quarterback. The game became a showcase for offensive talent: Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott, and their respective receiving corps, turning the matchup into a high-octane shootout that left fans breathless and defenders scrambling. The time of possession tilted slightly to Dallas, 37 minutes 21 seconds to New York's 32 minutes and 39 seconds. Wilson's duo of Malik Neighbors, who accounted for 9 catches, 167 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Wan'Dale Robinson, who hauled in 8 catches, 142 yards, and a touchdown, lit up the field. The Cowboys mounted late-game heroics as Prescott connected with George Pickens in the final minute of regulation to take the lead, only for the Giants to respond with Wilson's 48-yard touchdown to Neighbors with 25 seconds left. Then Cowboys kicker Brandon Aubrey drilled a 64-yard field goal as time expired to force OT, then won it with a 46-yard game winner. Before we move on, it's worth digging deeper into the quarterback matchup. This one was truly entertaining. Russell Wilson and Dak Prescott seem to represent 2 different stages of their NFL journeys. Many view Wilson as approaching the twilight of his career, relying on experience, timing, and a still sharp arm to keep him competitive. Prescott, by contrast, is in his prime years, with both the physical tools and the leadership presence to keep the Cowboys in contention for several more seasons. Watching them go head-to-head highlighted not only their individual skills, but also the ways experience and youth manifest differently under pressure in the modern NFL. The Giants' veteran Russell Wilson had one of the finest passing nights of his career, completing 30 of 41 throws for 450 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception, finishing with a 123.0 passer rating. For Dallas, Dak Prescott completed 38 of 52 for 361 yards and 2 touchdowns, orchestrating the decisive drives in the fourth quarter and overtime. The duel was as much about poise under pressure as it was about pure arm strength, Wilson flashing vintage form, while Prescott leaned on veteran calm to win the late moments. Let's move on to Detroit, where the Chicago Bears and the Detroit Lions, 2 of the league's oldest franchises, met to reignite a classic rivalry. On this day at Ford Field, Detroit emphatically defeated Chicago 52-21, turning what had been perceived as a competitive divisional pairing into a dominant performance. Heading in, Detroit was expected to lean on a potent offense headed by Goff at the helm, strong weapons like Amon-Ra St. Brown, and a new-look coaching staff led by Dan Campbell. While Campbell has been the head guy for several seasons in Detroit, Ben Johnson left his post as the offensive coordinator to take the vacancy in Chicago. This would be Campbell and Johnson's first head-to-head meeting between the two as head coaches. While there was plenty of optimism, there was concern, including could they rebound from a Week 1 loss and avoid slow starts. Chicago, meanwhile, believed its strength lay in injecting youth and speed into its offensive core, including rookie receiver Rome Odunze, and believed their defense could hold up. But the big question lingered: could their defense stand up in a rivalry game? And could Williams, as a young quarterback, manage the pressure? As with most divisional games, this one mattered more than just win-lose record. As 2 of the NFC North's oldest franchises, the Bears-Lions rivalry carries tradition. This game mattered because it sent a message. Detroit is ready to assert itself in the NFC North, while Chicago has real work ahead. This game further highlighted the gulf between where each franchise stands. The Lions, with recent playoff experience, are considered one of the top teams in the league, but the lingering question is whether they can stay healthy long enough to solidify that status. For the Bears, the challenge is finding their identity this season. Can they develop consistency and resilience to mount a real challenge to Detroit's apparent favoritism in the division? This matchup underscored that, while the rivalry endures, The balance of power in the NFC North currently favors the Lions. At least, for Week 2. Let's go diggin' deeper in the game itself. Chicago's young star quarterback Caleb Williams stepped into the pocket and completed 19 of 30 passes for 207 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception, as the veteran Jared Goff delivered a near-flawless outing. 23 of 28 for 334 yards and 5 touchdowns, earning a passer rating of 156.0. The contrast was clear. A rising young signal caller still finding his footing versus a polished, deep veteran executing with precision. Detroit piled up 511 total net yards. Chicago managed 339. The time of possession was nearly identical, as Detroit held the ball for 30 minutes and 20 seconds, and Chicago had it for 29 minutes and 40 seconds. But the story was in the big play, and just how dominant Detroit was. Detroit averaged 8.8 yards per play, a franchise record for a game. While Chicago had 205 passing yards and 134 rushing yards, Detroit's passing game exploded with Goff's 334 yards. Their rushing attack added significant yardage, with backs like Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery combining for over 150 yards. Rome Odunze flashed for Chicago, posting 128 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Lions, Amon-Ra Street. Brown hauled in 9 catches for 115 yards and 3 TDs. We cannot overlook the penalties and turnovers, as Chicago committed 8 penalties and gave up 4 sacks. Turnovers, including 2 on downs, plagued them early, turning the game to another divisional game, this time to Miami, for a high-stakes divisional bout at Hard Rock Stadium between the New England and Miami Dolphins, where the Patriots edged Miami 33-27 in a contest filled with big plays, momentum swings, and a dunk of special teams brilliance. At Diggin' Deeper, we highlight the quarterback so often because it is an offensive-oriented league headed by the quarterback. He is the signal caller and arguably the most important player on the field for each team. Fair or not, that's the way the league is today. This matchup is interesting for different reasons, as both teams have really good quarterbacks. On one side, the promising Drake May stepped into the spotlight for New England and delivered a composed, efficient outing. 19 of 23 passing for 230 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. This is the type of quarterback play you expected from a quarterback out of New England. He added 31 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown, finishing with a 137.3 passer rating. For Miami, veteran Tua Tagovailoa threw for 315 yards with 2 touchdowns and 1 interception, completing 26 of 32 passes. He kept Miami in the hunt but ultimately fell short. This matchup was compelling. The youthful upward trajectory of May versus the established, but under pressure, Tagovailoa, each trying to assert the identity of their franchise coming into the season. And this game is no exception. There is significant speculation surrounding the futures of both Tua Tagovailoa and Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel. While Tagovailoa has proven he can produce high-volume passing numbers, questions linger about consistency and performance in critical moments. For McDaniel, the pressure mounts to translate his innovative offensive schemes into sustained success and wins, particularly against divisional rivals like New England. This Week 2 matchup only amplified the spotlight on both, highlighting that the trajectory of the Dolphins' season and possibly the long-term direction of the franchise may hinge on the development and execution of their quarterback-coach duo. By digging deeper into the numbers, we find the time of possession. The Patriots held the ball for 33 minutes and 45 seconds, while Miami had 26 minutes and 15 seconds. New England rushed the ball for 122 yards as a team. Miami had 315 through the air, with 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. The Dolphins allowed for 5 sacks, finished with 297 passing yards. Officially, the Patriots got 2 early touchdown strikes from May to jump out to a 12-0 lead, both points after touchdown, or PATs failed, and then later leaned on special teams. Antonio Gibson returned a kickoff 90 yards for a TD, immediately countering a 74-yard punt return touchdown by the Dolphins. Malik Washington. New England's defense made the play when it counted. A sack by Milton Williams on 4th and 12 sealed the game late. Coming into the game, the Patriots were banking on a renewed offense under May, a run game presence in Ramondre Stevenson, and special teams hope. Their concern: could their rookie quarterback protect the ball? Could the defense hold up in tight moments? And could special teams avoid giving up momentum? The Dolphins, meanwhile, believed their strength lay in a playmaking passing attack. Tagovailoa, with weapons like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and a defense that could force turnovers. Their concern: Consistency in the trenches, minimizing big play mistakes and avoiding self-inflicted damage. In this early season AFC East showdown, it was Drake May's Patriots who stepped up when it mattered most. Mays orchestrated key drives in the clutch, including a late scoring possession that ultimately sealed the 33-27 victory over the Dolphins. His poise under pressure, combined with timely contributions from the run game and special teams, allowed New England to overcome Miami's high-powered passing attack and claim a pivotal divisional win. This performance not only highlighted May's potential as a franchise quarterback, but also gave Patriots fans reason to believe that their team can compete at a high level in the AFC East this season. Let's continue down south, this time in New Orleans. In a Sunday afternoon contest marked by injuries, backup heroics, and late-game drama, the 49ers claimed a hard-fought 26-21 win over the Saints as San Francisco improved to 2-0, while New Orleans fell to 0-2. San Francisco came into the game known for its disciplined defense, reliable running attack, and strong coaching under Kyle Shanahan. The concern was obvious. Missing key personnel, including quarterback Brock Purdy, tight end George Kittle, and others, could derail their offensive rhythm. The Saints, meanwhile, believed their passing game and youthful energy could signal a new direction under head coach Kellen Moore. Their biggest concern: could they protect the ball, avoid costly errors, and stop giving away momentum at home? The Saints face serious questions at quarterback following Derek Carr's off-season retirement. With the veteran gone, New Orleans must rely on a youth-driven tandem of Spencer Rattler and Tyler Show, both of whom bring different skill sets but lack extensive starting experience. Rattler offers versatility and rushing ability, while Show provides a traditional pocket presence. But the lack of consistency and experience at the position creates a vulnerability that opposing defenses can exploit. Show is a 26-year-old rookie, old for a rookie in the NFL, admittedly, and at times the Saints have been known to draw up plays for Taysom Hill at quarterback. This quarterback uncertainty compounds broader offensive and defensive challenges, making every game an important test for the Saints as they attempt to rebuild and remain competitive in the NFC South. This game mattered because it illustrated where these two franchises are trending. The 49ers reaffirmed their standing as a contender despite adversity. The Saints showed glimpses of hope, but also that the road ahead is steep. For San Francisco, a road win under less than ideal conditions builds credibility. For New Orleans, the home loss underscores the urgency of improvement across multiple fronts. When the 2025 NFL schedules were released, the quarterback matchup for this game looked entirely different. Fans and analysts expected to see Brock Purdy lead the 49ers against Derek Carr and the Saints, promising a classic duel between two established starters. Instead, injuries and retirements reshaped the narrative. Mac Jones was called upon to start for San Francisco, while New Orleans leaned on its young quarterbacks, Rattler and Shoe. The unexpected changes added intrigue and unpredictability, testing the depth and resilience of both teams while providing an early season glimpse of how each franchise might adapt to adversity. It may be unfair to call Brock Purdy an established starter in the traditional sense, but compared to New Orleans' young options, he clearly fits the description. Purdy has shown a level of consistency and command that surpasses Mac Jones, even though Jones has been in the league longer. Jones himself is an example of a quarterback allowed the time and opportunity to develop into a reliable option, and this game demonstrated both the value of patience in nurturing talent and the importance of depth when injuries strike. The contrast between the two sides, an emerging star versus an inexperienced duo, added an extra layer of drama to the matchup. Let's look at the game and how it turned out. The 49ers took the lead early and held it by making timely plays. Jones' 3 touchdowns came on passes of 11, 7, and 42 yards to Luke Farrell, Christian McCaffrey, and Jawan Jennings, respectively. A pivotal moment came late in the third quarter when the Saints fumbled at midfield. San Francisco turned it into a 42-yard touchdown and a 2-possession lead. On offense for the Saints, running back Alvin Kamara rushed for 99 yards on 21 carries and added 6 receptions for 21 yards. But the fumble loomed large. As the score suggests, the game as a whole for both sides were nearly even. The 49ers had the ball for 30 minutes and 45 seconds. The Saints held it 29 minutes and 15 seconds. And the 49ers had 344 total yards. The Saints had 307 total yards. Numbers like this is how you end up with a 26-21 score. Penalties, third down challenges, and turnovers hampered New Orleans down the stretch. Despite their injuries, the 49ers defense stepped up. Linebacker Fred Warner recorded 11 tackles and forced the key turnover that shifted momentum. This was a hard-fought win for the 49ers, one that showcases both their resilience and depth. With Mac Jones stepping in admirably for an injured Brock Purdy, the team demonstrated an ability to overcome adversity and execute in clutch moments. If San Francisco can stay healthy over the course of the season, this victory will be looked back on as an early testament to the team's character and cohesion. A win they can build upon as they aim for sustained contention in the NFC. Let us move on to New Jersey, to MetLife Stadium, in a Sunday afternoon showdown between the Buffalo Bills and the New York Jets. The Bills would dominate the Jets 30-10. While it has been a long absence for the Jets in terms of being a contender, this matchup carries the added intensity of a long-standing AFC East rivalry. Divisional games always carry extra weight, as each team not only battles for a win, but also for positioning in a tightly contested division. There is little to say about this game really. Buffalo improved to 2-0 on the season, while the Jets dropped to 0-2, leaving early questions about their offensive consistency. For Buffalo, quarterback Josh Allen completed 14 of 25 passing attempts for 148 yards, rushed 6 times for 59 yards, and did not throw a touchdown in the contest. On the Jets side, backup quarterback Tyrod Taylor relieved starter Justin Fields after an early injury-related exit, finishing 7 of 11 for 56 yards and 1 touchdown. Fields completed 3 of 11 for 27 yards before exiting the game. The matchup highlighted contrast. Buffalo leaning on their rushing game and offensive balance with Allen executing, and New York's quarterback situation disrupted by injury, limiting their ability to mount an effective passing attack. Although the final score read 30-10, the game was never truly close. Buffalo controlled the line of scrimmage, dominated time of possession, and racked up nearly 3 times as many total yards as the Jets. From the opening drive, it was clear that New York struggled to establish any rhythm, while the Bills methodically imposed their will on both sides of the ball. The scoreline may suggest some competitiveness late in the game, but in reality, Buffalo maintained control from start to finish, making this victory a statement of early season dominance in the AFC East. The numbers tell the tale, as the Bills nearly doubled time of possession with 38 minutes and 21 seconds. New York with 21 minutes and 39 seconds. The Bills did double up, nearly tripling total yards with 403 total yards to New York's 154 total yards. While Josh Allen's numbers may not have been impressive, at least by his standards, they didn't need to be, as Buffalo rushed for 224 yards. Running back James Cook carried 21 times for 132 yards and 2 touchdowns. Allen also contributed 59 rushing yards on 6 carries, adding a dual-threat dimension that kept the Jets' defense guessing. Buffalo's ground game allowed them to chew up the clock, sustain long drives, and convert key third downs, reinforcing their identity as one of the league's most balanced and potent offenses. While Buffalo's passing was modest, with only 148 yards from Allen and another 32 yards from backup Mitchell Trubisky and a sack from the Jets for a total of 179 total yards, the Jets' passing was severely limited by the injury and Buffalo's defensive pressure. Buffalo scored 10 in the first quarter, 10 in the second, 3 in the third, and 7 in the fourth. Jets only 3 in the second and 7 in the fourth. Allen took a brutal hit early that caused bleeding from his nose, raising concern about his health. Buffalo's defense held the Jets to very few first down conversions and very limited yardage all game. The Seattle Seahawks would travel to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. Both teams had expectations going into the season as playoff teams. This is why the Steelers brought in Aaron Rodgers. With the air still heavy from expectations, the matchup did deliver drama, storylines, and a sharp turn in momentum. The Seahawks, reeling from an opening week loss, traveled to Acrisure Stadium to face the Steelers and walked out with a convincing 31-17 road victory. It was a game that told as much about both teams' trajectories as it did about their on-field execution. Seattle entered the contest determined to right the ship after a narrow defeat in Week 1. Their strength was anticipated to lie in their revamped defensive front and the dual-threat potential of quarterback Sam Darnold paired with running back Kenneth Walker III. However, concerns lingered. Seattle's secondary was dealing with key injuries, including cornerback Devin Witherspoon was doubtful and safety Nick Emenworry was out. Pittsburgh, meanwhile, came in fresh off a Week 1 win and hoped to establish consistency on both sides of the ball. Quarterback Aaron Rodgers, in his second game with the Steelers, was expected to manage the offense efficiently, while the defense aimed to shore up vulnerabilities revealed early in the season. The key concern for Pittsburgh, Could their rushing attack take pressure off Rodgers, and could the line protect him effectively? Despite trailing at halftime 14-7, Seattle roared back in the second half, outscoring Pittsburgh 17-3. A pivotal moment came early in the fourth quarter. Following a 54-yard field goal by Seattle to take the lead 17-14, a chaotic kickoff resulted in rookie Steelers returner Caleb Johnson misplaying the ball. The Seahawks recovered it in the end zone for a touchdown, swinging momentum and the scoreboard in dramatic fashion. The Seahawks defense held firm down the stretch as Darian Kendricks intercepted Rodgers in the end zone and repeatedly forced 3-and-outs. Meanwhile, Seattle's offense balanced big plays. Darnold to Jackson Smith-Njigba for 41 yards, with a strong ground game led by Walker, which ultimately established control. Seattle outgained Pittsburgh 395-267 total yard, and controlled the clock with 31 minutes and 17 seconds to Pittsburgh's 28 minutes and 43 seconds. Pittsburgh averaged just 2.6 yards per play in the first half, and struggled all game to keep drives alive. The kickoff touchdown changed a one-score game into a two-possession lead for Seattle. An enormous swing. This game saw Sam Darnold making the most of the opportunity. He completed 22 of 33 passes for 295 yards, 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, finishing with an 89.8 passer rating. Walker paired with him effectively, rushing for 105 yards and a touchdown on 13 carries, keeping the Steelers' defense on its heels. On the Pittsburgh side, Rodgers struggled to find a rhythm. He completed just 18 of 33 passes for 203 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions, with 3 sacks and visible hesitation under pressure. Defensively, the Seahawks were menacing. Their front got consistent pressure, recording sacks and QB hits, while the Steelers' rushing game was stifled at just 72 yards on the day. Every win in the NFL is a big win, and for Seattle to come out of Pittsburgh with a win illustrated early on that they are a team that will be playing for a playoff spot come January. Let's head to Tennessee, where the Los Angeles Rams took on the Tennessee Titans. In a homestand for Tennessee at Nissan Stadium, the Rams turned a slim halftime deficit into a decisive road victory, improving to 2-0, while the Titans fell to 0-2. Los Angeles came in confident about its balanced attack. Stafford's arm, receivers such as Devontae Adams and rising star Puka Nacua, and a defensive front that could pressure quarterbacks. Their concern: can the offense avoid turnovers, and can the run game sustain explosive plays? Tennessee believed its strength would lie in rejuvenating the run game behind new faces and the home crowd energy. The major concerns: how a rookie quarterback would hold up, whether the offensive line could protect, and whether the defense could stop breakaway plays. This would be Cam Ward's second start of his young career. While both teams are headed in different directions, and the expectations coming into the season, and this game, completely different, this game mattered, because it offered a clear snapshot of trajectories. For the Rams, the win affirmed they're a team that can bounce back and assert dominance in the second half of games. For the Titans, the defeat underlined how far they have to go, especially in protecting the quarterback, stopping chunk plays, and building a consistent identity. Time of possession actually favored the Titans, but not by much, as the Titans had it for 30 minutes and 7 seconds. The Rams had it for 29 minutes and 53 seconds, but the total yards favored the Rams heavily. 439 yards to the Titans, 252 yards. Rams rushed for 149 yards on 25 attempts, which is 6.0 yards per attempt, and passed for 290 yards. Tennessee rushed for 109 yards on 26 attempts for 4.2 yards per attempt, and passed for 143 yards. The Rams struck early with a 45-yard touchdown run by Nacua on a 4th-and-1 jet sweep. In the second half, Stafford hit Davis Allen for an 8-yard TD pass, following a strip sack by outside linebacker Byron Young that flipped field position. The Titans led 13-10 at the break, before the Rams outscored them 23-6 in the second half. Cam Ward showed a flash of his potential, and made a memorable play, but he also endured the kind of rough outing you'd expect from a rookie quarterback facing a strong opposition. His arm strength was indeed on display, with his first career touchdown on a 9-yard pass to rookie receiver Alec Iomanor on a 3rd-and-goal play, where Ward scrambled under pressure, evaded defenders, and delivered the ball across his body into the end zone. This marked a memorable milestone in his young career. In short, the Rams turned a competitive game into a statement win. For the Titans, Sunday was less about the final score and more about the gap they must close if they're to be serious contenders. Let's now head to the desert, to Arizona, for the Carolina Panthers and the Arizona Cardinals. At State Farm Stadium, Arizona held on for a 27-22 road victory, improving to 2-0 on the season, while Carolina dropped to 0-2. For the Panthers, young quarterback Bryce Young delivered a career-high passing day, 35 of 55 for 328 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Bryce Young's career so far has been a roller coaster. While he has flashes of the elite talent that made him the #1 overall pick in 2023, he has struggled with consistency. There have been games where he reads defenses brilliantly, hits big plays, and shows poise beyond his years. But there have also been stretches where decision-making lapses, misreads, and poor ball security bring up the bust label. This dichotomy, brilliance tempered by mistakes, makes him a polarizing figure in Carolina. Fans and analysts alike recognize his potential to be a franchise quarterback. But until he can string together more complete games and avoid the late-game lapses, the question of whether he can fully justify his draft pedigree will persist. The Week 2 showing against Arizona was a perfect microcosm, impressive yardage and big plays, yet ultimately falling short in execution when it mattered most. On the Cardinals' side, veteran signal caller Kyler Murray completed 17 of 25 passes for 220 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Kyler Murray's situation in Arizona is starting to feel like a ticking clock scenario. He undeniably has tremendous talent around him. Rookie Marvin Harrison Jr., a potential game-changing wideout, and tight end Trey McBride, a consistent target, give him weapons few quarterbacks can match. Add in Murray's dual-threat ability, his speed and agility. He can hurt defenses both through the air and on the ground. Yet, despite the talent around him, Murray has faced scrutiny for inconsistent play over the past few seasons. Critics point to games where his decision-making falters, turnovers crop up, or efficiency drops, fueling speculation about whether the Cardinals' star is still developing or has plateaued. With a talented supporting cast and the expectations that come with it, every misstep is magnified. Many observers now wonder, are Murray's best days in the desert behind him? Or can he rise to justify the hype that came with his 2019 draft selection? The matchup thus featured Young's high-volume challenge versus Murray's more efficient, experience-based approach. The Panthers actually controlled the clock with 33 minutes and 15 seconds to Arizona's 26 minutes and 45 seconds, and outgained the Cardinals 352 to Arizona's 293 total yards. But what truly matters is the scoreboard. And Arizona came out on top, 27-22. Arizona built a 27-3 lead entering the fourth quarter, before Carolina mounted a 13-0 run in the final frame. Arizona held Carolina to just 49 rushing yards for the game. Cardinals veteran Calais Campbell recorded the sack on Young at 0:26 left in the game to seal the win. Back to the young, Bryce Young, no pun intended. Young posted his first 300-yard passing game of his career, reaching 328 yards. Meanwhile, Arizona's early lead was powered by strong defensive plays and efficient offense, but late-game errors gave Carolina hope. This game mattered because it highlighted where each franchise stands. Arizona, aiming to return to contention, displayed the toughness necessary for big wins, even if imperfect. Carolina, in the midst of building under Young, proved they have offensive potential but still must fix foundational issues to climb. The result underscores the gap between a more established roster and a developing one. Let's go to Indianapolis, where the Denver Broncos squared off against the Indianapolis Colts at Lucas Oil Stadium, where the Colts pulled off a dramatic comeback to edge Denver 29-28. The game was a roller coaster from start to finish, full of explosive plays, missed opportunities, and a rare penalty that changed everything. Denver came into the matchup looking to build on its off-season momentum. With a roster featuring playmakers and an offense expected to be aggressive, the Broncos believed they could dominate early and control the game. Concerns included protecting their young quarterback and finishing drives when they got in scoring range. Indianapolis, meanwhile, entered with a mix of optimism and caution. The offense under Daniel Jones showed flashes of promise, and the rushing attack led by Jonathan Taylor was expected to test Denver's run defense. But the Colts were aware that road mistakes and special teams errors could derail the effort. It did appear that the Broncos had the game in hand. They scored early and built a lead entering the fourth quarter. Denver totaled 324 net yards compared to Indianapolis's 473 yards. However, Indianapolis's persistence paid off, as Jonathan Taylor broke free for a 68-yard run that shifted momentum and set up scoring. The Broncos cleared multiple red zone opportunities, but failed to convert several drives into extended leads. In the final minutes, Denver missed a field goal wide right that would have given them a 2-possession margin, with under 4 minutes remaining. But the climax came via one of the most bizarre endings of the season. After a 60-yard field goal attempt by Indianapolis fell short as time expired, a flag for a leverage penalty on Denver's kick block team negated the miss. The Colts were granted another attempt from 45 yards, which they converted to win the game. In case you do not know, the leverage penalty in the NFL is a relatively rare and often controversial call. It occurs when a defensive player uses another player or any object to gain extra height to block a kick, typically a field goal or extra point attempt. The rule is designed to prevent defenders from gaining an unfair mechanical advantage. In this game, the decisive moment came when Denver's kick block team was flagged for leverage after a missed field goal. Without the penalty, the Colts would have lost the game, but the flag nullified the miss, giving Indianapolis another attempt, which they converted to win 29-28. Danny Dimes, the nickname Daniel Jones earned in New York for his ability to make precise, dime-like throws downfield, showed that he is still that guy in Week 2. Jones showed poise under pressure, making several critical throws that kept drives alive and set up scoring opportunities. While Danny Dimes has had his share of inconsistency earlier in his career with New York, in Indianapolis, he demonstrated why the nickname stuck. He delivered clean, accurate passes when it mattered most, especially on the game-tying drive late in the fourth quarter. While the nickname might have been from his past, but the performance reaffirmed that Daniel Jones still has the skill set that earned him it, now with more maturity and better surrounding talent. For the younger Bo Nix had a mixed outing. His stat line showed 22 of 30 passing for 206 yards, with 3 passing touchdowns and 1 interception. It demonstrated his ability to make plays in the red zone and connect for touchdowns early in the game. On the flip side, he was hampered by turnovers and inconsistency. The interception stalled a drive inside the opponent's 10, and his completion percentage of 73.3% belies some errant throws and missed opportunities. Nix's performance reminds us he has talent and plays with upside, but the erratic moments still creep in, especially under pressure or late in drives. This head-to-head matchup showed control and clutch execution, particularly when facing pressure and blitz-heavy looks, giving the Colts a reliable presence at quarterback in a tight game. Nix showed glimpses of his potential, the ability to throw for touchdowns, make big plays, but his mistakes, particularly the interception and missed precision, underscored the young quarterback versus the seasoned veteran risk. Okay, so maybe it's a stretch to say Jones is a seasoned veteran, but he's far from a rookie. For Jones, the game reinforced the narrative of a quarterback revitalized and thriving in a system that accommodates his strengths. For Nix, the game reinforced that he has a high ceiling, but whether he becomes consistent and mistake-averse will determine how good he becomes. Let's go out to Arrowhead for a Super Bowl rematch between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. This game would prove to be a tightly fought rematch of recent high-stakes encounters, as Philadelphia edged Kansas City 2017. With the Chiefs dropping to 0-2 for the first time in the Patrick Mahomes era, the Eagles improved to 2-0 and reinforced their status as a serious contender. Philadelphia entered expecting to lean on its strong rushing game, led by Saquon Barkley, and a defense capable of forcing stops in big moments. Their concern: could the passing attack ignite, and could they avoid turnovers in a rematch setting? Kansas City's strength was obviously Mahomes and his big play potential, along with veteran weapons like Kelce's. The concerns: receiver depth was limited, notably the absence of Xavier Worthy, and they had to tighten execution in the red zone and protect against turnovers. In this game, the Eagles controlled the ball for 32 minutes and 34 seconds, while the Chiefs had it for 27 minutes and 26 seconds. But the Chiefs outgained the Eagles, 294 total yards to 216 total yards. Barkley carried 22 times for 88 yards and a touchdown. With the game tied at 10-10, Mukuba's interception and return for 41 yards set up the Eagles for a go-ahead drive, ultimately leading to the tush-push touchdown that pushed the lead to double digits. Late in the fourth quarter, the Chiefs connected on a 49-yard touchdown from Mahomes to Tyquan Thornton to cut the lead to 3, but Philadelphia recovered the ensuing onside attempt to ice the game. For the Eagles, quarterback Jalen Hurts completed 15 of 22 passes for 101 yards and no turnovers. His passing numbers were modest, but his leadership and rushing ability, including a 1-yard TD dive in the fourth quarter, proved decisive. On the Chiefs' side, Mahomes finished with 16 of 29 passing for 187 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception, and he also rushed for 66 yards and a score. Key player for Philadelphia, defensive back Andrew Mukuba, whose end-zone interception off a pass intended for Travis Kelce late in the game proved pivotal. It's only week 2, but this game carried more than normal importance. It was a rematch of Super Bowl 59, and both teams were seeking early season momentum. For the Eagles, the win sent a message that they are back in the mix in a loaded NFC. For the Chiefs, it raised questions about depth, execution, and sustaining success in the Mahomes era. The narrow margin win highlighted the razor-thin gap between victory and defeat in the modern NFL. This is the end of the late games, so let's go to the Sunday Night Football game between the Atlanta Falcons and the Minnesota Vikings, in an interesting clash of two young and talented teams. In a primetime showdown at US Bank Stadium, Atlanta pulled away from Minnesota to win 22-6. Handing the Vikings a sobering home loss and giving the Falcons their first win of the season. Both franchises came into the night with promise and young rosters keen to assert themselves. The Falcons were hoping to rebound after a Week 1 setback, banking on their burgeoning rushing attack and a defense still developing its identity. The Vikings, fresh off a strong finish last season, expected to lean on young quarterback Jay McCarthy and star receiver Justin Jefferson to carry the offense, while the defense was hampered by injuries and inexperience. Key concerns for Minnesota: protecting McCarthy, generating consistent offensive rhythm, and closing out drives. Key concerns for Atlanta: could their passing game take off, and would the defense hold up under pressure? Diggin. Deeper into the numbers, we easily see why the Falcons were able to control the game handily. The Falcons outgained the Vikings 326 to 198 total yard and controlled the ball 36 minutes and 32 seconds to 23 minutes and 38 seconds. The Falcons, ground game dominated. Atlanta ran for 218 yards and punished Minnesota's front. Atlanta's defense rushed the Vikings heavily and got 6 sacks, including multiple from rookie defenders stepping up big. Most of Atlanta's points came via field goals by kicker Parker Romo, who made 5 successful kicks before Allgeier's late touchdown put the game out of reach. Looking at the quarterback play, Atlanta's Michael Penix Jr. completed 13 of 21 passes for 135 yards, no touchdowns, and no interceptions. He was efficient and protected the ball, though the passing game did not spark large chunks of yardage. Back, Bijan Robinson stole the show for Atlanta, 22 carries for 143 yards, while teammate Tyler Allgeier added 76 rushing yards and the game's only touchdown. On Minnesota's side, J.J. McCarthy completed 11 of 21 passes for 158 yards, threw 2 interceptions and lost a fumble. The Vikings' offense stalled repeatedly, and the defense was under constant pressure. Jefferson caught 3 passes for 81 yards, the lone bright spot in the offense. McCarthy showed flashes of why he was a highly touted first-round pick, but lingering rust from his rookie season injury and limited playing time has slowed his development. While the Vikings expected to assert themselves under Sunday Night Lights, it was Atlanta that made the statement. The Falcons demonstrated they can win on the road with a young, physical roster that controls tempo and imposes its will. Minnesota, despite the talent and optimism surrounding its young core, struggled to keep pace when it mattered most. The outcome highlighted the contrasting trajectories of these franchises. Atlanta ascending, confidently building momentum, and Minnesota still polishing the edges of a team with potential but needing consistency and growth. Let's turn the calendar to Monday night. The first of 2 Monday Night Football games on September 15th featured the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Houston Texans in a tense matchup that went down to the final seconds. The Buccaneers escaped with a dramatic 20-19 road victory, capped by an 11-play, 80-yard drive orchestrated by quarterback Baker Mayfield. The veteran signal caller completed 25 of 38 passes for 215 yards and 2 touchdowns, finishing with a 98.0 passer rating and no turnovers. For Mayfield, the performance extended the narrative of his renaissance in Tampa Bay, proof that patience and perseverance can still pay off for a once written-off young quarterback. If a baker's dozen offers one more than expected, Mayfield continues to show he's using every last egg in the carton, delivering more than anyone thought remained in his recipe. The Texans, meanwhile, saw young star quarterback C.J. Stroud complete 13 of 24 for 207 yards and 1 touchdown. But his unit stalled badly after the first quarter. Coming into the game, Tampa Bay hoped to build on a strong start and prove they could finish tight games, while Houston sought to establish momentum at home and give their young quarterback a statement moment. The upset win is a big plus for the Bucs, demonstrating resilience, late-game execution, and a dominant rushing attack. Bucky Irving, who recorded 71 rushing yards, but also accompanied by Rachaad White, who added 65 rushing yards, and Mayfield himself, who also contributed 3 rushing yards, 31 of which came in the fourth quarter. The Texans rushed for 84 yards. On the flip side, Houston's near miss raises concerns. Their offense stalled for long stretches, protection issues persist, and Stroud didn't deliver when it mattered most. An ominous sign for a franchise counting on his maturation, but optimism remains in Houston for the young talent and the defense's ability to keep them in the contest. If the offense can find consistency, they still have a promising future. After Monday night's clash, the Buccaneers and Texans are heading in opposite directions in their respective divisions. Tampa Bay improved to 2-0 and currently sits atop the NFC South, asserting early dominance in the division. Houston, meanwhile, fell to 0-2 and finds itself at the bottom of the AFC South. Still, all is not lost for the Texans. They compete in a division widely regarded as one of the weaker ones in the league, leaving room for optimism despite the early season struggles. The second Monday night matchup featured a key early season AFC West showdown between the Los Angeles Chargers and the Las Vegas Raiders. It's really hard not say Las Vegas for the Raiders. At heart, they're still in Oakland. The matchup took place at Allegiant Stadium, where the Chargers pulled away for a 29 victory, improving to 2-0 and staking an early claim in the division. The Raiders, meanwhile, fell to 1-1, leaving questions swirling around their offense and consistency. The game featured a compelling quarterback showdown. Justin Herbert, with his signature long, golden locks flowing as he stepped back in the pocket, displayed the youthful arm talent, athleticism, and fearless aggressiveness that has made him a rising star in the league. Across the field, Geno Smith brought his own brand of veteran savvy, calm under pressure, precise in the short and intermediate passing game, and able to read defenses with the poise that comes from years of experience. The contrast was striking. Herbert's flair and physical gifts versus Smith's cerebral approach and measured command, making it a matchup of style, skill, and generational difference that added drama to every drive. On this night, Herbert delivered one of his steadier outings, completing 19 of 27 passes for 242 yards and tossing 2 touchdowns. He also led his team in rushing with 31 yards on 9 carries, showing versatility beyond the pocket. His scoring throws went to wide receivers Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnston, the latter hauling in a 60-yard strike that ignited the Chargers' decisive second-quarter burst. The offense was efficient when it mattered, and Herbert's command of the game allowed Los Angeles to control tempo and avoid major mistakes. On the other side, Raiders quarterback Geno Smith endured a rough night in his second start of the campaign, finishing 24 of 43 for just 180 yards and throwing 3 interceptions. The Chargers' defense capitalized early and often. Las Vegas never found its rhythm in the red zone and mustered only field goals for their points. While the NFL is centered around quarterbacks and this matchup featured 2 of the better quarterbacks in the league, it was also a clash of divisional foes, coached by seasoned rivals. Jim Harbaugh for the Chargers versus Pete Carroll for the Raiders, adding an extra layer of storyline to the primetime slot. Expectations were high on both sides. The Chargers were looking to show they could dominate within their division after a road win in Week 1, while the Raiders sought a home field statement to build momentum. Honestly, there is a reason why both the Chargers and Raiders invested in their respective head coaches. Both teams have struggled to live up to expectations in recent seasons, but the Chargers' underperformance has been particularly glaring. With a young star quarterback like Justin Herbert, a talented supporting cast on offense, and a defense capable of making game-changing plays, the team has consistently hovered just above mediocrity. This is not the standard one would expect from a roster with such potential, and the early season matchup against the Raiders offered a reminder of how much work remains if they want to translate talent into consistent success. From a worrying standpoint, for the Raiders, the inability to punch drives into the end zone, coupled with an offensive line missing key starter Jackson Powers-Johnson, concussion, and a rushing attack that stalled, raises real concerns about their ability to sustain performance. Their second down and third down failures were too frequent, and they allowed too many chunks and turnovers. For the Chargers, while the overall start is promising, some caution flags remain. The offense had limited explosive plays in the second half. The defense will want to avoid complacency after surrendering 6 first-half points, and starting edge rusher Khalil Mack exited early with an elbow injury. As for optimism, the Chargers can walk away from the night feeling they executed a complete game. Effective offense, complementary defense, and a division win in primetime to build confidence. For the Raiders, despite the loss, there are still pieces to build on. They remain competitive in the West, and if they fix red zone execution and clean up turnovers, they could still contend. This game didn't just register as a 29 result. It reinforced the Chargers as early AFC West frontrunners and served as a cautionary marker for the Raiders that their margin for error is already growing thin. On that note, let's call it a night. Week 2 of the 2025 NFL season delivered a little bit of everything. Divisional showdowns, key injuries, pivotal quarterback battles, and unforgettable outcomes. From standout quarterback performances to clutch defensive stops and game-changing plays, at Diggin, Deeper, we strive to capture every moment and bring it straight to you, the fans, so no defining play goes unnoticed. From all of us here, thank you for joining me for the second broadcast of Diggin, Deeper into the NFL. I am Brian Parsons, your humble host, wishing you all the best. Stay safe, enjoy the games ahead, and God bless.